The Buttkicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker. The future is feeling.
After a quick jump across the border down into Brazil, the classic Indycar series presented by the Buttkicker finds itself back on home turf as we get ready to watch the Edifice Grand Prix of Monterey. Welcome everyone to RaceSpotTV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by Andrew Kinsella with Joshua Lee as our director and producer behind the scenes. And we are here at one of the symbolic homes of open wheel racing in the United States, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna, Seca. And Andrew, as it always seems to be the case when we talk about Laguna Seca, it's going to be difficult to pass around here, but the action always intense for these Indy cars as they get out onto track.
If there's one track on the west coast of America that I really associate with IndyCar racing, it has definitely got to be Laguna Seca. You have such classic moments here, like that pass that Brian Herta pulled off on Alex Zanardi. You saw the bravery that it took, that Alex Zanardi pulled off on Brian Herta. You saw the bravery it took in order to complete that pass. As you say, it's difficult to pass here, but it's not impossible. And I think that we're going to see some really close wheel-to-wheel action. There's going to be a lot to cover over the course of this race here today.
Yeah, there certainly is, as it is going to be absolutely fantastic racing. Drivers out on track right now for warm-up as we show you the schedule of the season. As we said, we were just at Interlagos, and now things turn around a little bit after today's race as we get further on into our season. Iowa, Nashville, Worldwide Technology Raceway, going to a couple of ovals here as the series aims to simulate exactly what it is like to be racing the IndyCar, and the combination here of ovals and road courses means you have got to be an expert at absolutely everything you touch to be able to get things right, Andrew.
Absolutely, and here today at Laguna Seca, this will be sort of the last gasp for a couple months for these road course aces that we've seen dominating these last two rounds, and once again looking to really stamp their authority on this championship so far. But as you say, two ovals coming up, and they're two very tricky ovals as well. Iowa, the short track there, it's a high banked short track, always some entertaining action, especially in these IRO 5 cars. And then Nashville will be very interesting to watch. It'll be the first time that we go to Nashville in these cars.
Yes, it will, but it's not the first time we've run the series this season, and that's important because we actually have championship standings here for you. Let's go ahead and run you through what our championship order is. Henry Bennett and Joshua Chen tied with 112 points at the top of the charts right now. Ethan Agon, they're in third place with Cameron Dance certainly starting to look in close behind him. Stefan Schlacker not out of the conversation as well with Jan Dirks. They're in sixth place. Jan Hoffman, Lucas Laville, Randy Shoemake, and Andrew Aitken rounding out your top 10. A little bit of a breakaway there from Bennett and Chin, kind of to be expected, but obviously these championship standings thrown a little bit out of whack because of the calamity that we saw going down into turn one in the race down at Interlagos. It certainly changed things up and allowed for Bennett and Chin to pull away from the rest of the field.
Henry Bennett and Josh Chin are old rivals that have been duking it out for championships for multiple years here on iRacing. But yeah, that name that really shocks me is down there in 8th place with Lucas Laville. And as you mentioned, it was all down to that lap one, turn one incident that we had down in Brazil. It was best described as a calamity, DJ, and I'm sure that a number of drivers are going to be looking for a recovery drive here today.
Yeah, I certainly think they will be, and we will have quite a few drivers that are going to be suffering from some pit lane penalties here. But just to kind of go into the details of the day, we're expecting about a 30 to 32 lap fuel tank of running here, so that should put us at about a 2-stop race probably over the course of the race. There you can see the last time we were here was 2019 with Ronnie Nunez able to take the victory, and Lucas Laville, as you mentioned, one of those names that we're surprised to see farther down the list, rounding out your podium. There you can see the list of drivers who have to start from the rear of the grid, and that is certainly going to shake things up. But we don't have a whole lot of time to wait around and talk about it because checkered flag is flying right now for the warm-up session, and we are getting ready to turn these classic Indy cars loose on WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca and getting ready to go live. Let's bring you through that starting grid. It's going to be Cameron Dance lining up in pole position with Joshua Chin to his outside in second place. Henry Bennett will be third, followed by Ethan Agon with Jack Stiles and Jan Hoffman rounding out your top 6. In seventh place, it's going to be Gavin Hibbs, followed by Robert Grosser, with Andrew Wood and Logan Simmons behind them. Franz Joseph Stoom will line up in 11th with Vesa Yaleola there in 12th place. 13th will be Randy Shoemake, followed by our featured driver on the day, Robert Barnkanow, with Andrew Aitken and Jack Turner in 16th. 17th will be Jamie Wilson. Marshall Stanley will line up 18th. Sebastian Kinder will be in 19th with Tristan Hauser in 20th, Stefan Roseman in 21st, and then it looks like we have Matt Wagner lining up in 23rd position. A rolling start, as is traditional here in the IndyCar Series, and what are your keys to getting around this track nice and easy? Andrew, there you can see the track conditions, by the way, very, very toasty, 49 degrees Celsius, 121 degrees Fahrenheit out on track. That's going to make grip a little bit hard to come by, I have to imagine. So are there keys to survival around here? Is that the way to go, or is it a big way to just be able to push and try to be able to make some moves?
I find, DJ, that around Laguna Seca, it's really down to getting and finding your rhythm here. It's one of those tracks where if you get unsettled, it can take you several laps to really settle back into the race and find your footing again. So if you can maintain that rhythm and find it early on in the race, you can really set in some good solid lap times. But the corners here are deceptively tricky. They're sort of blind apexes. Of course, you have the corkscrew that is very, very difficult to negotiate well lap after lap. But there are also some very tricky corners that will easily catch a driver off footing, and then that's where you'll see a lot of opportunistic moves. So you really, as a driver, have to be watching what the driver in front of you is doing, setting up the pass, and pouncing on those mistakes that the other drivers make.
Well, and as you said, those mistakes are absolutely crucial around here. And the way the circuit is laid out, the dust and dirt off to the side, very, very slippery. If you do set a tire off, it can certainly throw you for a loop. As we look behind the iRacing pace car, they are now riding on board with your pole sitter, Cameron Dan, or excuse me, that is actually your third place driver, Henry Bennett, as we work our way up the hill. And Andrew, these are a couple of those corners, very easy to run wide there, pick up a little bit of oversteer, and find yourself out skating across the gravel.
Yeah, absolutely. And you really want to try and take that last corner almost as flat out as you can. But this right here, this is the really tricky part of the track. The corkscrew, you basically come over a blind crest in the hill. You have to aim for a spot on the horizon, basically, for your turn-in point, and then you immediately have to turn back right, and then it's just a roller coaster down this sequence in here. So I think this section of the track is going to be key for all of our hopefuls here today.
Well, and we won't have long to wait to see who is going to have the most hope as we come out of the penultimate corner. iRacing pace car pulling off to the inside, going down into pit lane, giving control of the field over to Cameron Dance and the number 88 machine, Joshua Chin, lining up to his outside, and all eyes turn to Barney the flagman as we get ready to go green, and there goes the flag. We are racing in Laguna Seca. It is a great start there for Cameron Dance and Henry Bennett. A bit of a bad start for Joshua Chin. He is finding himself absolutely swamped here at the beginning. That is going to be Bennett trying to challenge around the outside of the Andretti hairpin as they go down through the corner for the first time. Drivers giving themselves plenty of space as they go. Cameron Dance leading out of that first hairpin. Henry Bennett behind him. Jack Stiles, Gavin Hibbs, and Joshua Chin all the way back down into fifth place. A terrible start for your points leader.
I'm not sure if Josh was in the wrong fuel map here, DJ, or whether he was just in the wrong gear, but whatever the case was, he just did not get off the start. And look at him, he's already made another mistake there, and he gets hit by his teammate Andrew Wood as well.
Oh my goodness, utter calamity happening here for Joshua Chin early in the race. Wood looking like he's got a very serious problem. The rear wing gone from that Team Chimera machine. That is not good news for them. I'm also seeing Robert Grosser having a problem as well. We'll go back and check out a replay here of this. It looks like, just a big ka-thunk there for Wood.
So Wood was in 6th place right behind Josh, and when Josh lost it through the corner there, Wood checks up, spins around right in front of Robert Grosser, and Grosser nowhere to go on that one. Just a massive impact for Andrew Wood. He had been looking really good in the early going. He had made up a few positions with his teammates' checkup, and then unfortunately just wrong place, wrong time for the number 64 car there.
Yeah, and that is going to put him back in pit lane. I'm also seeing, as I said, Robert Grosser back there as well. We focus in on Joshua Chin, checking out that replay one last time here. Yeah, just trying to be a little bit over-aggressive, I think, going into that corner, probably trying to make up for a little bit of lost time and just getting it wrong. It's as simple as that.
Yep, 100%. It was just too much aggression from Josh Chin that early in the race. He knows he made a mistake, whether it was missing a gear or whether it was missing the right fuel map to be in on the start. So he was seeing, I think, a little bit of red mist, and it just cost him there.
Yeah, and he's going to find himself now down in 7th position right now, the number 93, but we focus here on the battle for the lead. Cameron Dance trying to hold off Henry Bennett here a little bit as they go down into the final corner. Dance setting the fastest lap of the race on the first lap, to the surprise of nobody. We'll have to see what comes across here as they work their way across the start-finish line. Bennett here applying that pressure that you talked about earlier, Andrew, as it's so difficult to really get a good slipstream going down into the Mario Andretti hairpin. Jan Hoffman now taking the fastest lap of the race away from Cameron Dance, but a very close battle for first.
Yeah, there's no real long straightaway that you have here. There are a couple of long-ish straights, but you can't really ever get to the top of the rev range and really use the draft to your advantage around Laguna Seca. So what you really have to do is what Henry Bennett's doing and what you were mentioning is just applying that pressure and forcing the drivers in front of you to make mistakes. Right now, Henry Bennett in that 007 car, he's looking really racy on the back of Cameron Dance, and Cameron doesn't look the most comfortable at this point.
Yeah, just definitely feeling a little bit of that pressure. I think Gavin Hibbs has had an issue. Seeing him drop down through the field there. He's going to find himself all the way down in 8th, 9th. That looks like it's coming down out of the corkscrew through Rainy Curve. Very heavy damage to the front of that number 95 machine. We jump back to check out the replay here.
Yeah, so Hibbs, basically, he just goes through the corkscrew here, gets back to the power just a little bit too hard, gets some wheel spin, and then right over into that wall. But while we've been watching this replay, DJ, we've had a change for the lead. Cameron Dance made a mistake coming out of the final corner, and Henry Bennett and Jack Stiles are now 1 and 2.
An excellent pounce there from both Bennett and Stiles to be able to move their way forward, and that looks like that is Dance trying to make a move down to the inside, maybe a little bit of team tactics there. As you mentioned, Stiles and Dance both teammates. Now it's going to be Ethan Agon trying to see if he can get anything to go on Jack Stiles. Not going to be able to do it there as they climb their way up the hill.
Yeah, definitely, I think some team tactics. Stiles knows that Dance is a little bit stronger, especially on these road courses. Stiles might be a little bit advantage on the ovals, but right now what they can't afford is to let Henry Bennett gap them, and that's exactly what Bennett's done so far. He's already gotten 0.8 of a second over just the course of one lap here.
Yeah, 0.8 of a second, a pretty big advantage. One of the larger ones we are seeing in the top 6. The top 6 separated right now by about 3 seconds. Gaps all very small in between them. Some larger gaps starting to grow in the rest of the field as we watch your former leader, Cameron Dance, working his way through the Andretti hairpin, trying to close in. He was able to close in a little bit on the straightaway, but not as way to go. By the way, we are in for an 87-lap race, not 71, so that was our mistake there. So a little bit longer of a race, still looking at that 2-stop strategy to play itself out. And well, Andrew, it's never too early to start thinking about fuel. I mean, could we see a situation where some of these drivers are able to conserve a little bit, try to stretch that fuel stint to a little bit longer, and that could help them out?
You know me, DJ. There's never a road course race where I'm not considering fuel mileage in some way or another. There's always little tricks that you can do to try and either come in a little bit early, maybe use that undercut, or on the other side, maybe use the overcut to your advantage or have a shorter stop towards the end of the race. So there's definitely different tactics that I think we'll see today over the course of the race, and it'll really, I think, depend on exactly what's going on in terms of traffic, because traffic is going to be very, very important for these drivers. As we can see, Henry Bennett going purple on that last lap. And did he ever go purple, DJ? That was a 108.77, the first lap into the 108s this race, and he has gapped Cameron Dance here in second place.
Yeah, he certainly is. And, you know, you mentioned earlier that Dance looking a little bit out of sorts. Was we rode on board there with Jack Stiles, it really looked like that Jack had a whole bunch of speed over his teammate coming down into that first corner. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. This is a little bit of an anomaly of a performance here for Cameron Dance, as he just looks a little bit unsettled today.
Yeah, I do think that the teammates are probably running fairly high downforce. This is a high downforce track, but it looks like the two teammates in second and third, they're sort of running a little bit higher than even I would say. But really what I'm seeing from Cameron Dance is he's just not comfortable out on the track right now. He's missing apexes slightly, he's missing braking zone slightly, and he just seems to be pressing really, really hard. So, as Jack Stiles makes a mistake coming out of the final corner, that's just down to power down. These cars have just a brutal power band, and it's so easy for that to happen. And it looks like Stiles trying to fight back here, but Josh Chin maybe taking advantage, and he's all the way back up into fourth place here, DJ, now.
Yes, he is, but that battle's going to continue on there for a little bit out of turn 2 there, and that is going to be Chin up into P4. Those gaps continuing to grow up at the front. Chin now has to focus on Ethan Agon, who's about 0.7 of a second up ahead of him. They're going to try to go, but running 1, 2, 3 here is Chin, Stiles, and Jan Hoffman. Remember, Hoffman putting in some fast laps earlier on, so I think that is a car certainly to watch out for. We know that number 05 has got a lot of speed.
Absolutely. All of these cars really are showing some very good speed here in this top 6. I'm sure that some of the drivers who have also made mistakes here are sort of ruining the speed, especially if you're Gavin Hibbs. But really, it's down to these top 6 that they've really sort of separated themselves from the rest of the field. Logan Simmons down in 7th, a full 5.5 seconds, I believe, behind Jan Hoffman. So it's really a tale of the top 6 and then everyone else so far.
Yeah, it certainly is. There's a couple of lockups there going down into the Andretti hairpin, but we are fortunate enough right now to be joined by one of the drivers who has had an unfortunate end to his day, Robert Grosser, as we bring him up here into the commentary booth. Robert, another race, unfortunately, another early punch-out for you. Talk me through your opening laps.
You said laps? What can I say? Sorry, I'm a bit speechless right now. It's so sad, it's really sad. I mean, I saw that Josh was going a little bit sideways. I mean, he was not the first car in front of me, but I don't know, second or third car in front of me. I saw him going a bit sideways in this left turn to the uphill part corkscrew. So I went a bit more defensive through that kink. But then all of a sudden the car of Lemko would appear in front of me, also then going sideways. I had no clue about him. And we made contact. End of the story. I guess we both bent our suspension in this contact, and then the race for both of us is over, which is pretty unfortunate because I guess Andrew as well as myself, we had no business in this whatever happened to Josh there, so it's just sad.
Yeah, certainly a tough break for you, and we hate to see that breaking out for you. I mean, you know, looking ahead here, we take to the oval side of the circuit coming up. Normally, I would say it's the road courses that you feel a little bit safer, but are you looking forward to maybe some change of scenery and just doing some left turns here to get some good results?
Yeah, I think I honestly have to rely on the ovals a little bit. I mean, I don't have that much practice time available. I mean, it is still enough to do what I did here in qualifying and so on and all. So that's not the thing, but I'm not like super competitive. so on the ovals, usually when my teammates are building a good car for me, then I can also score better results. So I really have to look forward to the ovals now mainly, because also it's more likely to survive that one just for a change. So I'm hoping for some good results. It's now like Iowa, Gateway, which both not in that order. There's Nashville in between, which the whole series has never raced before, but Iowa, Gateway, both ovals, which I really like, and I'm really looking forward to them.
Well, I know I'm certainly looking forward to calling them, Roberts, and we want to thank you for joining us here for a little chat up in the booth, and so sorry once again that your race has ended so prematurely.
Thank you very much, DJ. See you in a bit.
We'll see you in a bit. That was Robert Grosser there taken out on lap 1, and you saw on your screen on that live commentary Josh Chin sending a pass up to the inside there of Ethan Agon, showing how it's done here a little bit, that you can indeed get some passing done at Laguna Seca here, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. And turn 1 is definitely one of those passing zones, because you do have, it's not really straight, but it is a long straightaway and a long run up, and it does look like Josh has a lot of power down that front straightaway, and he does seem to have a lot of top speed in that car, so he's definitely making the car work, and it was a really nice move, really clean move, and I think he's definitely, after that adventurous first lap that we were talking about, he's settled back into this race just a little bit, and he's just methodically working his way up, and now he's just got one more car between himself and Henry Bennett. But the big story, I think, right now, DJ, is just how far Henry Bennett is checking out over the rest of this field.
Yeah, he has got a 4-second advantage as they work their way up the hill. He's entering into the corkscrew there as Joshua Chin just now entering into the corkscrew himself. Bennett really looking like he's out for a Sunday drive here, and I think his biggest concern that he's going to start to come on, and you mentioned this earlier, is going to be that lap traffic that he's going to start running into probably in about, I would say, less than 10 laps time, as it looks like Gavin Hibbs and Tristan Hauser are going to be the first victims of him to come in. And on such a narrow track like this, lap traffic can be an absolute hindrance to any good race you want to kind of run.
Yeah, and the really tricky part, DJ, is there's no very long straightaways, so it's very difficult as a lap car to be as courteous as you want to be, and to really give the faster cars the opportunity to get by. But right now we're looking at a really tough battle here between Cameron Dance and Josh Chin. Chin has been putting Dance under an immense amount of pressure these last few laps, and Dance has been putting wheels off into the gravel just a little bit, and Chin, I think, is getting more and more anxious as he sees Henry Bennett driving off into the distance here.
Yeah, Bennett able to grow about 0.8 of a second on that last lap as they work their way into the corkscrew right now. Chin looked very, very aggressive going into that corner on the last lap, darting this way and that, maybe trying to throw Dance off a little bit. Also want to give some credit here to Ethan Agon, who's been able to keep up behind in this battle despite getting passed by Joshua Chin, certainly closing it on in, and then Stiles and Hoffman also holding into this battle. Once again, as we mentioned before, Logan Simmons now a full 8 seconds behind, so no real worry from behind, but I think you're right there, Andrew. Joshua Chin just absolutely wanting to try to get himself on by as quickly as possible. Ooh, but a little bit of a lockup. Maybe not the best run there through the Andretti hairpin.
No, definitely not what Josh wanted to do, but at the same time, what this might just allow him to do is get a run on Dance coming off of some of these corners here, because one of the things that can happen at Laguna Seca, because the corners are so close together, is you sort of get almost draft locked behind the car in front of you, and there's almost nothing that you can do. And sometimes when you make a small mistake like that, it actually allows you to get a proper run out of one of these corners and really set up the pass properly. But for Josh Chin, he's really just got to find a way to make Cameron Dance make a mistake here, and we have seen that he's made a mistake once already, so that's definitely something that can happen here. But Cameron Dance, very experienced on iRacing, not just in this Indycar, but in various forms of cars here on iRacing, and he's not going to be one who's going to crack under pressure easily.
No, he certainly is not, and normally I would say the same about Josh Chin, but we saw a couple of those very, very untypical, non-atypical, there we go, that's the right word I was looking for, atypical mistakes. As here comes the move from Josh Chin, down to the inside of Cameron Dance, a little bit of wheel lock up there for good measure, but absolutely sending it down into the corner.
Yeah, that was a brave move there from Josh Chin. He got every bit of that every bit of the braking zone there in order to make that happen. But Cameron Dance not letting him out of his sight just yet. But I think that Cameron, if he is going to get by Josh, he's going to have to get back by him in the next couple of laps, because Josh Chin, he's looked fast so far today. He's got the best lap so far, despite being back in traffic. So I expect Josh to gap the battle between Dance and Egan very, very quickly here.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he's able to do it. Egan trying to close in behind there a little bit. He's about 0.6 of a second off of Cameron Dance now, as he's having some internet issues there. It would appear the top 6 continuing to run together. Dance doing a good job. A lot of brake lockups there for Josh Chin. Obviously, these cars, a bit of a handful, but not typically what I would expect there out of Chin. Just a lot of smoke coming off of those front brakes.
Yeah, and part of that, I think, is just his suspension setup. What he's doing is he's picking up the inside front suspension. So from a setup builder standpoint, that tells me that his dampers aren't quite as happy as they could be on this car right now. He's just got he's basically rolling over on the right or on the outside rear just a little bit, and it's picking up the inside front corner, and that's what's causing these lockups. It won't cause him too many issues in terms of speed, but what it does do is it does affect how fast the tires wear, as we saw a big wiggle from Josh under braking there into the corkscrew.
Well, and how much is the tire wear going to be an issue here today? I mean, we are dealing with 122-degree track temperature. Laguna Seca, not exactly known as the most abrasive surface, and these Indy cars tend to be relatively kind to their tires on road courses, but are drivers really going to have to keep that in mind over the course of the race, or are they just going to be able to run it flat out pretty much?
I'm expecting it to be fairly flat out. The IR05, of course, is on the old tire model, so it does behave a little bit differently than we're used to seeing on more of the newer cars with the new tire model. So in the case of the IR05, I think that we should find mostly comparable speeds throughout the run. They might even pick up pace just a little bit as the run goes on and the fuel goes down. I don't anticipate tires being too much of an issue, except for that they do tend to lose grip, and they tend to be a little bit more squirrely towards the end of the run. So that's, I think, where it's really going to pay to have a good car's platform underneath you and a good setup, because it'll just allow you to push to the maximum throughout the course of the stint rather than at one end or the other.
Well, we'll have to see if those drivers are able to have that good setup, and we'll be able to tell that probably in about 15 laps time or so when drivers come down pit lane. We currently ride on board with Marshall Stanley here. This is a battle that's starting to shape itself up in the mid-pack a little bit as he tries to chase down on Yaila Oliela there. Right up ahead of him, very, very close. Alternate lines coming down through Rainy Curve a little bit, down into the right-hander now. Both drivers keeping things very composed, but Stanley looking pretty quick here through the twisty bits. He looks like he's got the... Oh, and of course I just jinxed him there with a big snap oversteer coming out of the final corner.
Yeah, and it was a big moment there, but oh, sorry, I had something pop up on my screen, but that was yeah. So what you're seeing here is yeah, this is a very tough battle here between Vesa Ilha Olila and Marshall Stanley, and it really is one of those cases where you just see, I think Stanley is a little bit faster than Ilha Olila is right now, but he just can't find a way by, and you really need to be confident on the brakes, like we saw with Josh Chin making the move on Cameron Dance earlier. But you can't afford to do that. What we just saw Stanley do there is put the wheels wide coming out of some of these corners, because it just kills your momentum and it doesn't allow you to get the proper run on the car in front of you.
No, it does not, but it looks like there that Stanley was able to get a pretty decent run coming down through the corkscrew as they work their way through the penultimate corner now, losing a little bit of time. That air wash maybe coming into play. Stanley going to be hoping to keep that car from having that little bit of snap oversteer that we saw it have on the last trip through here. Looks like he's able to get that good and done as they cross over the line. The gap coming down from about 0.2 of a second. Stanley not not looking, maybe looking, trying to have a little bit of a look there down to the inside of the Andretti hairpin, but Vesa able to hold him at bay for now, but that gap now expanding out to about 0.3 of a second. And Andrew, when you go to make those passes, we obviously are used to losing a little bit of time, but just how much can you lose by being a little bit over aggressive like that on a track like this?
Well, it's very easy to lose 1 or 2 seconds at least, depending on where you do it and how ill-advised your attempt is. When you're taking stabs like this, you're probably only losing maybe a tenth or two, but it's when you get up beside someone without being able to complete the pass fully, that's when you really start to see the time being lost. So right now, they're probably not losing too much time as it is, but that can change very quickly.
It certainly can, and they are running in a little bit of an island unto themselves. Sebastian Kinder up ahead of them in 8th is about 3.5 seconds up the road, and Franz Josef Stum behind them is about 6 seconds. Here we go. There's the move down to the inside for Stanley. Is he going to be able to outbrake Vesa going down into the first corner? Vesa trying to hold it out around the outside. It's going to be a drag race off of the corner, momentum favoring Vesa as they go, and he's going to be able to hold on to that position. That was a brave defense there from the number 96.
Or that was actually Stanley making the move around the outside there, DJ. That was a brave move there. Vesa Ilhaolila, he defended to the inside, and Stanley with the move on the outside, he was really deep on the brakes there and was able to pull it off. And it'll be interesting to see whether that Vortex car that we've seen have the pace with Jan Hoffman being able to stay with that top 6. Maybe Marshall Stanley will be able to sort of reel back in Kinder in front of him.
Well, only 3.5 seconds here to go, so we'll keep an eye on that gap as they go, as it already looks like Stanley's starting to pull away there a little bit. Focusing you back on the battle here. This is for P5 right now. Jack Stiles and Jan Hoffman as they run only about, let's call that about a car length, 2 car lengths as they run and start to work their way up the hill. A very close battle starting to develop itself out here, and we're seeing these sort of couplets starting to form across the whole track here, Andrew.
Yeah, and this can often happen at Laguna Seca, especially when the car behind you starts to fill your mirrors. As the car leading, you start to be paying a little bit more attention to your mirrors versus what's actually happening in front of you. And that ends up slowing both of you down at the same time. So I think that's what we're seeing just a little bit from Stiles. I also think that maybe his car isn't quite working the way that he was hoping for it to work at this point in time. It's just not quite as fast, I think, as the rest of the cars in this top 6, and you can see Jan Hoffman, he's all over the back of him, and I would expect a move coming in the next few laps from Hoffman.
Well, he certainly thought about a move there going down to the Andretti hairpin, trying to see if he could force Jack Stiles off the line a little bit. Stiles resolutely holding on to the position, though. Ooh, off into the gravel there a little bit. That's going to throw him off as they now work their way up the hill. Climbing, climbing, climbing. This is the part of the track where you're really not going to be able to get a move done unless there is a bit of a mistake from the car in front of you. Hoffman hoping for that mistake to come. They power their way through the left-hander almost flat out, as you said. Hoffman running a little bit wide. Looks like he's not going to be able to have an attack going down into the corkscrew. Ooh, he's going to take a little bit of a wider line, though, seeing if he can just line that corner up a little bit better. And it looks like Stiles got the better power out of that fearsome corkscrew corner.
And one thing that I'm noticing on this onboard, DJ, is we do have a little bit of right front wing damage on the 05 car of Jan Hoffman here. So that could very well be playing into the fact that he just doesn't seem to be able to get by Jack Stiles here. He probably doesn't quite have the top end speed that he's looking for, but that right front wing is definitely bent just a little bit.
And how much is that able to be fixed in pit lane? Obviously, the snap-on style of rear wings here, is that something that he can get fixed, or is that something that he's going to have to live with for the entire race?
He will definitely be able to get it fixed, but it will, I believe, cost him an extra 5 seconds on this next pit stop in order to get that replaced, and it is a mandatory repair on these cars, I believe.
All right, so there you go. We also have another good little battle starting to shape itself up. Cameron Dance and Ethan Agan here as they climb their way towards the hairpin. A little bit later on the binders, there was Ethan plunging down the hill. Ooh, big squirrel there from Ethan.
That was a nice save there from Ethan Hagen. He got very, very loose coming through that switchback and very nearly was a ticket straight into that outside wall. That's going to have scared him just a little bit, and I would expect him to take a couple of laps here to just gather himself, because that is already one of the most nerve-wracking parts of this circuit, and he very nearly made it even worse there. So nice save there from Ethan Hagen. Another thing that I want to mention, Josh Chin, he's closing back up on Henry Bennett. He's cut into the gap. It was about 4.5 seconds when he got by Cameron Dance, now down to just 2.5 seconds.
Yes, it is, and setting the fastest lap of the race as he did so. Joshua Chin really starting to put in those quick times in the number 93 as we start to inch our way closer and closer to the first round of pit stops. Now, that is a lapped car running around there behind Josh. I believe that is Aitken there, the number 27, so he really doesn't have any pressure from behind. He's able to pull a 3.7 gap over Cameron Dance, doing exactly what you predicted here, Andrew, and just running away from the 88.
And Josh has definitely got the fastest car on the track right now. He's got the best lap, not just by a couple of tenths of a second, but by 3 full tenths of a second. So he has really got his car hooked up, and I bet you, DJ, that he is just ruining that mistake from lap 1 and absolutely kicking himself for losing so much ground on that opening lap.
Yeah, most certainly is, but he certainly looks like he could be still in contention for this race win if he keeps everything nice and together. You can see there on your screen that gap just expanding a little bit before it starts to come down a little bit. That obviously just the ebb and flow over the normal course of a race as they go. Now, he is going to have a little bit more lap traffic to deal with, I think. No, excuse me, he is not. We jump back in the field here in the battle with the number 20. This is Hagen and Dance again as they continue to go. Now, they are going to have a little bit of lap traffic in front of them in the form of Andrew Aitken, and that could play a little bit of a factor here if Andrew doesn't get out of the way.
Yeah, and Cameron Dance has caught Andrew Aitken at one of the worst spots to be able to do this, because he's going to have to make this move into this final corner. Will Aitken give both of them? He doesn't make life easy there for Ethan Hagen, and he's actually cost Ethan Hagen probably a good 0.3 of a second there coming through that final corner. So definitely not what Hagen was hoping for, but Cameron Dance there, very, very grateful that he was able to get the move done more cleanly than Hagen behind him. Meanwhile, Jan Hoffman and Jack Stiles still going at it behind him. And they will be the next set of drivers to try and overhaul Andrew Aitken as well.
Yes, they will, as they run nose to tail here, right here. Hoffman just doing an absolutely fantastic job to be able to keep up that pressure on Jack Stiles as they work their way through the rising left-handers that make up the back half of this circuit. Trying to see what there is. No real place to overtake again on this place unless there is a mistake that happens on the track. Aitken, it looks like they may run into him almost in exactly the same area that Cameron Dance and Hagen did. So Aitken just, unfortunately, just having some bad luck of the draw when it comes to getting past here.
Yeah, and one of the hardest parts about being a lap car in a race like this, especially this first time through, is that it very much, once you get passed by one set of leaders, then the next set is very much right on your tail again. So it's very hard to get into a rhythm, and you lose time each time this happens. So you just feel like you're going backwards and backwards and backwards as Aitken does a nice job getting out of the way through turn 1 and 2 there. So both Stiles and Hoffman nice and cleanly through there. But meanwhile, Josh Chin at the front, he's down to 1.3 seconds, and I think Henry Bennett's in a little bit of traffic here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, let's jump you over to Henry Bennett right now as he has just been able to, actually, he is running in some relatively clean air there. He's got Franz Joseph Stum about 15 seconds up the road from him. Was able to get by Robert Barnkenow as they went around and trying to get his way. And there you can see the visual representation. Josh Chin flitting into the back of the picture there. The 007 only 1.2 seconds up the road from Chin, and Chin is coming on fast.
Yeah, so I'm watching the lap times coming across the screen, and it was definitely a slower lap from both Bennett and Chin this last time by, but Chin has just been able to take out tenths of a second lap after lap, and he's really hounding the back of Henry Bennett now. And I'm sure that Henry Bennett is now thinking that he was in for a nice sort of calm, clean race once he got past Cameron Dance. Well, that's out the window now because Josh Chin is quickly barreling down on the back of that 007 car.
Yes, he is, but as we've said before here at Laguna Seca, catching is one thing, passing is another entirely, and with about 3 laps left until we anticipate the pit stop cycle starting to fire off, it'll be interesting to see here what that will do to anything, to see maybe if Chin has just been absolutely going at full chat, to see if he's used a little bit more fuel than everybody else. As we said before, though, we anticipate a pretty easy 2-stop strategy here across the board, so I don't think you necessarily need to do a lot of fuel saving unless you're trying to jump your way forward a little bit, but it looks like Chin has just got the outright pace to not have to worry about that.
Yeah, it's not so much of a need to fuel save in order to cut out a stop, but what it does is fuel saving in these cars, it does produce a pit road advantage on that final stop. So if you don't have to be stationary in your pit box as long, that'll be a big advantage, especially because it is so hard to pass here. If you can get the move done on pit lane, or if you're Henry Bennett, if you can defend your move with some good pit strategy and defend Josh from being able to get by you on the pit lane, then you're going to force him to have to make that move on track. And as we've seen, it is doable, but it is very, very difficult to pass around here.
Yeah, very difficult to pass, and that is going to be the challenge here for Joshua Chin as he continues to close down on your leader, ticking closer and closer to that lap 30 mark where those pit stops will start to fire off. Chin has been able to get that gap down under a second here as they run. You can see both of your leaders on the screen, and they have absolutely dropped Cameron Dance from this equation. Cameron Dance about 6 seconds of a lap for the 6 seconds behind these two drivers as we work on lap 29. Everything continuing to just percolate here as we get closer to that round of pit stops.
Yeah, all the drivers in their cars right now, they'll be thinking purely about strategy right now. Even in those close battles, what you'll be seeing is drivers making sure that they have the strategy right and be trying to make moves with the strategy rather than trying to make the moves on track. So if you're Jan Hoffman, if you're Ethan Egan, or if you're Josh Chin, you're thinking in the car, how do I maximize this pit window in order to get around the car in front of me? How do I use pit road to my advantage and make a move there where on track I just wasn't able to get the move done?
For sure, as here they come, both leaders not opting to come down pit lane. We'll keep you abreast if anybody else does opt to come down. It looks like Dance and Egan not coming in. We'll let you know if anybody else does. Bennett here looking like he's responding a little bit. He has seen that gap really fall down by leaps and bounds over the past couple of laps, able to keep the bleeding to a relative minimum here and not allow Josh Chin to be fully behind him in on that gearbox. So a good run there from Bennett. Certainly looking like he's got a little bit of a pace to put up a fight, if nothing else.
Yeah, and we would not expect a driver like Henry Bennett to roll over without a fight to Josh Chin. These two have been going at it not only in the Classic IndyCar series, but in multiple series in the IndyCar for years now, and neither of them are slouches when it comes to setup or racecraft as well. So definitely Henry Bennett, his style is definitely to sort of work the strategy a little bit more than most, and to really be smooth with his input, smooth on the throttle, and just hit his marks. He's at home in the lead like he is right now. So I think what you're seeing is just what he's doing now is he's managing the gap to Chin. He knows that Chin is probably just a little bit quicker than him on outright pace, but by managing this gap and by keeping the pressure to a minimum and just focusing on being smooth, he's really doing a good job. But that being said, Josh Chin, he's right on the back of Henry Bennett now, and I expect that this battle, if it isn't switched around during the pit stops, it's going to be spicy for the whole next stint.
I certainly think it is. By the way, we have our first taker down pit lane. Robert Barnacow is coming down right now, so he is in pit lane getting service on that number 14. There you can see him pulling into the pits as we focus back on Joshua Chin here, taking a little bit of a wider entry into the corkscrew as they plunge their way down the famous corner, trying to see if Henry Bennett will be able to hold off the gap here as much as possible. Chin's been able to close that down to under 0.3 of a second as they work their way through the penultimate corner, and that's going to be Chin coming down pit lane. A little bit of alternate strategy playing out.
Yeah, so Chin got as close to Henry Bennett as he could during that first stint, and now it's all down to fuel strategy. And will he be able to pull off a little bit of an undercut here on the 007, or will the 007 being able to go one lap longer play to the benefit of Henry Bennett? Also down pit road is Jack Stiles. That's released Jan Hoffman. So I kind of like the overcut strategy here from Hoffman. I do think that these cars, what we've been seeing from the lap times, they hold the lap times really well, and in fact we've been seeing some of the faster lap times coming towards the end of this stint, so it'll take probably about a lap or so for these tires to get warmed back up. So I think that we might see a leapfrog from Jan Hoffman over the course of this battle with Jack Stiles there.
Well, we'll have to see as that strategy continues to play itself out and see if Henry Bennett is going to be able to get anything. By the way, that was Robert Barnacow able to miss the braking zone into the corkscrew, but stay out of the way of the leader. That got a little bit close. Ooh, little bit of spiciness going on here in the back. This is Kinder, Stiles, and Stanley all running 1, 2, 3.
And this is exactly what Stiles did want to have happen, is he's come out in the middle of this battle here. So he's going to be held up even further because these drivers just aren't able to put in the lap times that he was putting in with Jan Hoffman. So this is probably the worst case scenario, is that he wasn't able to come out in front of Kinder there. But meanwhile, Henry Bennett, the one thing I will say about that incident with Barnacow is, even though the Barnacow didn't really impede him too much, it would have thrown off Henry Bennett's rhythm through that corkscrew section. So it's very important that he gets this lap, because I'm assuming that this lap 33, he's probably going to be coming down pit road. He's got to nail this in lap for himself in order to stay in front of Josh Chin here.
Yes, he does. And the gap between the two, about 30 seconds, let's call it 31, just for grins there as they come. There you see some more drivers coming off of pit lane right now. That's Logan Simmons working his way back around, focusing in on the rest of these battles. And your leader, Henry Bennett, is down pit lane. So here comes the race between himself and Joshua Chin. It's a battle of the virtual pit crews here for the 007 to see if he'll be able to retain the lead. Cameron Dance and Ethan Hagen both coming down as well.
Yeah, so this is where it all comes down to for these drivers and crews, and especially if you're Ethan Hagen coming down on the same lap as Cameron Dance, you're really going to want to try and find a way to have your stop be just a little bit better, maybe get a little bit of a better exit out of the box and try and beat Hagen off. But this is all what it comes down to for Henry Bennett. Will Henry Bennett be able to fend off Josh Chin here on pit exit?
It's going to be very close as they come off, and it's going to be Chin able to get the advantage as he sweeps his way around the outside. Even though there is the shorter pit lane exit there, it is going to be Chin by a fair amount of car lengths there as it starts to separate itself out. That's about 1.5 seconds. Looking at it right now, it looks like Chin was about 0.6 of a second faster in the box, so that certainly helped him out. He's got a little bit of traffic to deal with in the form of Franz Josef Stum, able to get by him, but Chin out and into the lead of the race after having that early first lap incident. He has recovered.
And one of the things about that is we know that one of the stints in this race will be slightly shorter than the rest of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Josh Chin slightly underfueled his car on this middle stint in order to try and get out in front of Henry Bennett there, and he's done just that. And not only that, by about 2.5 seconds now. So that was a really, really good pit stop sequence from Josh Chin. And I think Henry Bennett had a bit of a messy in-lap that just did not allow him to really battle with Chin there.
Yeah, and those in and out laps always so crucial, as that's really been able to break up most of our battles out on track here, with Chin leading the way by now 3 seconds, it looks like, as they go around. Our closest battle right now, Sebastian Kinder and Marshall Stanley back for P8 right now. Kinder actually driving a really fantastic race as they run. He is up 11 positions on the day. Stanley as well, up 9. So both of these drivers really punching above their weight and putting in some good times.
Yeah, and it just goes to show just how much being smooth and hitting your marks really does pay off in a race like this, because this is such a difficult track to master and to run on, that sometimes it's just better to accept that you might not win the race, but a victory in and of itself is just finishing a race like this. And Kinder has just done a really good job of just lap after lap being nice and consistent. He's been facing some really tough pressure from Marshall Stanley over the last few laps, after Stanley has sort of closed back up on him after he disposed of Vesa Ilaoila. But Kinder has been doing a really good job of just withstanding that pressure, and Stanley really hasn't been able to do too much with him over the course of their battle here.
No, he hasn't, and that gap fluctuating back now to about 0.7 of a second, with Stanley trying to close in to the best of his abilities. Once again, a little bit of a wide run there for Stanley coming up the hill. That's going to cost him a couple of tenths as well. The gap seeing itself expand up to about 0.9 of a second as they go. And so that gap, that battle starting to separate itself out a little bit. Those little mental mistakes starting to come in as we are past the 1/3 mark in this race. And Andrew, you know as well as I do that when you're running a full-length race like this, you have got to constantly be on that mental game, as those little momentary lapses can be the difference between a pass and the wall.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to keep yourself mentally tough throughout this race, as we're seeing a nice battle here. Ethan Hagen really putting the pressure on the back of Cameron Dance. Cameron Dance is doing everything that he can to fight off that that's not Cam, or that is Jan Hoffman that has gotten around Ethan Hagen. When did this happen?
I think it may have happened just a little bit ago, as Hagen may have had a little bit of a problem in the pit stops. I'm looking back on my timing and scoring. He was about 0.7 of a second longer in the box, and I think that's what set everything up there. But Hagen certainly looking like he is trying to fight back a little bit, trying to regain a little bit from that pit stop problem there that he suffered, and losing just that little bit of time.
Yes, but he was still 2.5 seconds in front of Jan Hoffman when he came out of the pit stops. He was about 2.5 behind Dance and 2.5 in front of Hoffman, but for, somewhere here, Hagen has made a mistake, and it's allowed Hoffman to get around him. We'll have to see if we can find that, but for right now, it was a big mistake from Hagen that's allowed Hoffman into this battle here. And I must say, now that Hoffman has been released from Jack Styles, he's been showing some remarkable pace as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's quickly going to battle for a podium with Cameron Dance here very soon.
Looking back over the tape, I'm not seeing any incidents there necessarily from him, so I think that this was just a sheer catch on pace here for Jan Hoffman. Looks like he was able to close in. We check back in on that battle between Kinder and Stanley, the number 97, continuing to hold off, and again, Stanley running wide through that corner, just kicking up a little bit of dust. Yeah, you know, Andrew, we always talk about the mental game of playing to put the pressure on the driver in front, but when you are the driver chasing here, it can be just as easy to make a little mistake like that, push that little bit too hard.
Absolutely, and a rhythm cuts both ways, DJ. Sometimes you can get yourself into a rhythm where you make a mistake lap after lap after lap, and I think that's what we're starting to see here from Stanley, is he's sort of gotten used to the line that's taking him out really wide through there, and it's really costing him a fair bit of time in his battle here with Sebastian Kinder. So he's been going really, really deep on the brakes in all these corners, trying to push to the maximum. If I'm Marshall Stanley, what I'm going to do is I sort of need to take a little bit of a reset, and Stanley needs to take a little bit of a reset and just stop trying to go in quite so deep and allow these corners to sort of come to him, because he's pushing just so hard that he's actually costing himself time at this point.
Yeah, he certainly is, and he's got the outright pace to be able to close in. Every time we see him run he gets the corner right. When he gets a clean lap together and is able to put that together nicely, he's able to certainly close in and keep it going, but it's just those mistakes. And speaking of mistakes, a big off there for Sebastian over the bump of the corkscrew, and that's going to give that position to Marshall Stanley.
That was the Alex Zanardi line through that corkscrew, DJ, but that was definitely a big mistake there from Sebastian Kinder. He just gets in too deep, just can't make the corner, carries too much speed, and then there's a big bump that his rear tires go over. And not only that, but he's got the slowdown penalty because unlike in real life, there are slowdowns here on iRacing, and that puts paid to the battle between Kinder and Stanley, and it'll be interesting to see if Stanley can sort of now focus forward and see what he can do for the rest of this race here. But and here we see a battle. This is between, I believe that's Wilson and Vesa Ilha-Olila here. Wilson, he's not been having the strongest race. We haven't really talked about him too much here today, DJ, but definitely not going as strong as his teammate Josh Chin in first place, but it's another one of those just sort of quiet races that if he's around at the end, he's looking at a nice top 10 finish here.
Well, and sometimes when you're having a little bit of a rough day, that top 10 finish can be exactly what you need, as it looks like Vesa Ilha-Olila able to pull ahead here or able to be behind here of Jamie Wilson, just trying to close that down a little bit as they come out of the corkscrew, losing a little bit of time as they go. But Wilson definitely starting to stretch his legs, already got that gap up to 0.8 of a second. I definitely think there that he was getting held up by Vesa there, running through there, as it looks like he is just taking off like a rocket.
Yeah, he's definitely got a fast car in him, and it doesn't surprise me given that he's probably running something very similar to your race leader. So it doesn't surprise me to see that Jamie, once he was released there, is really able to focus forward, and he definitely has a lot still to race for here. He's got Sebastian Kinder and Marshall Stanley within 10 seconds in front of him, so if he can sort of get into a nice rhythm and close up on Kinder fairly quickly, I think he's still got a fairly good shot at a good finish here. But what can we say about Josh Chin here? Not only did he get around Henry Bennett at the stops there, but he's absolutely been able to put Henry Bennett in the rearview mirror, now 6.7 seconds in front of the Brit.
Yeah, consistently running 108s here is Josh Chin, and just putting those lap times down again and again and again and again and again. Henry Bennett only able to do a 109.22 on that last lap as they go. Really trying to see what they can make of it. Joshua Chin here, you see him coming out of the corner now. He's going to have a little bit of traffic to contend with up ahead of him. That's Vesa and Jamie Wilson, that battle that we were following a little bit earlier.
Yeah, and this is, again, one of the things that you have to be able to deal with as we see Josh Chin locking up the brakes again. He's got a very unique line to that first corner that I've been noticing. He likes to sort of get in really, really late on the brakes and carry a lot of momentum through that apex, and then really sort of trying to diamond off that corner. And it is definitely a fast way, but it's not the only way around that corner. And that's one of the cool things about a racetrack like Laguna Seca, is that while there are some corners like this one here that you really have to run sort of one line through, there are other corners where there are multiple fast lines around the track, and you can make the circuit work in different ways.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes this circuit so special, so wonderful to race, and I know I, for one, am glad to see Indycars back here, both on the sim and in real life, as they run around here. And that's going to bring us to about our halfway point here of the race, and so it's time to thank those who help make this race possible. First off, our presenting sponsor, the Buttkicker. Absolutely incredible here. Like we said, the series title for the Classic IndyCar Series, presented by the Buttkicker. We would also like to thank Extreme Scoring, who is the secondary sponsor of the series here. They are offering the following to the audience. Every viewer can buy a ticket by sending $5 to PayPal via the friends at classicindycarseries.com. If you want to send that over, At the end of the season, there will be a blind drawing with the winning ticket receiving a 12-race season package of Extreme Storing for free, which is worth $60. So please make sure to be a part of that raffle, that lottery, if you want to be a part of it. Absolutely incredible stuff there. And check out Extreme Scoring, as they are absolutely incredible there. Also want to thank Edifice, who are the race title sponsors here today. At Edifice Inc., construction is as much about art as it is science. It's about a strong vision and the creation of a structure with enduring qualities. It's about creative problem solving and the willingness to deliver above and beyond the expected. It's about passionate teams and long-standing partnerships built on trust, performance, and lasting value. Visit www.edificeinc.com for more information. Also, if you are a fan of the Classic IndyCar Series, there is a Patreon page out there available to be able to check that out. So make sure to go on over to the Patreon. There you can see more information there on that Extreme Scoring giveaway as it is put out there. So make sure to send that $5 over. And that is a massive thank you to all of our sponsors, Edifice, Buttkicker, and Extreme Scoring, for making this series possible. As we are over the halfway point here, Joshua Chin continuing to lead right now, building that gap more and more, Andrew. He is just a dominant force right now.
Yeah, it really has become Josh Chin's race. We saw him make that mistake on lap 1, and we were worried that he wouldn't be able to recover, but boy, has he ever recovered and then some. He is just driving off into the distance here, now lapping his teammate Jamie Wilson here and coming up very quickly onto the back of Sebastian Kinder very soon here. It has been just an absolutely impressive and dominating display from Chin.
Yeah, it certainly has, and everything's starting to stretch itself out a little bit here. Those battles that we were seeing starting to die off as drivers start to pick their way through traffic a little bit more. Now, we expect the next round of pit stops to probably come here in about 15 or so laps time, as that will be the second and final round of pit stops for all of these drivers. And at this point, it's really down to a lot of traffic management here. And you know, Andrew, you talked about this a little bit earlier, how tricky it can be to get by, but you've just got to have faith in your fellow drivers out there to make sure everything's okay and that you're going to be able to clear them cleanly.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the tricky thing for Josh especially is that so far most of the lap traffic that he's been dealing with have been slower cars. He's coming up and starting to lap some drivers a second time as well. But he's going to quickly start coming up on faster and faster cars. You start to get into the likes of Logan Simmons, Marshall Stanley, who will likely be going one lap down in this race. They're much faster, and it'll be much more difficult without some help from them in order for Josh to be able to overhaul them safely and effectively. So it's definitely one of those cases where you need to just be very, very patient if you're Chin. You need to see just how big a gap you've been able to put on the 007 Henry Bennett and just take whatever the traffic is sort of giving you at this point, because there's no hurry if you're Josh Chin in order to deal with all of this traffic. Oh! Chin makes a big mistake coming through the corner there.
Just got off a little bit. I'm not sure if that was entry misspeed there, or if he caught a little bit of gravel at the end, but that corner, that's the second time that we've seen Josh Chin have a little bit of a problem there at that corner. Now, thankfully, he's got such a big lead built up here that he hasn't lost that much time. He's really only lost about a second and a half or so to Henry Bennett behind, and is still able to maintain about a 7-second lead. But my goodness, that was a hairy moment.
And I'll tell you what, DJ, if Josh was starting to get a little bit complacent there and maybe take his eye off the prize, that will be a wake-up call for Josh Chin. He is going to be fully focused out after a scare like that, because like when you feel the car going around, especially in a corner like that where you're under so much compression, it's a big eye-opening event, and it's definitely one of those things where for the next at least 10 or 15 laps, you're going to be hyper focused on not letting that one happen again.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine there. And, you know, sometimes it is that give and take that you get on that hyperfixation that you need to drive a little bit more relaxed. But I think for Josh here, being able to get into that position and make sure that he doesn't make a mistake like that again is going to be pretty easy for him, as we've seen him be able to absolutely run some incredible races. But I've got to ask you here, Andrew, if you're sitting in Henry Bennett's shoes, if you're sitting in that 007, what can you do at this point, seeing Chin just streak away off into the distance?
I'm not sure that there's very much that Henry Bennett can do at this point, to be honest, DJ. I think that if you're Henry Bennett, you just got to be running your own race, and you know that Josh has made at least one mistake. You probably weren't aware of just how big a mistake he nearly just made again, but you definitely will have seen that you closed up about a second and a half that last time by, so that would tell Henry Bennett that he probably made another mistake at some point. So if you're Henry Bennett, what you're just focusing on is running your own race, running your fuel strategy, running your fuel numbers, and making sure that you get it to the end in a good manner, and that you're just putting in lap after lap and trying to be as consistent as possible and staying as close to Chin as possible. And then if he makes a mistake, you're there to capitalize.
Well, that's what he is going to be hoping to do here as we watch him around, but we've got a little bit of a battle starting to form itself up. Remember, we were talking earlier about the pace displayed from the 05 of Jan Hoffman. Well, he is caught up to the back of Cameron Dance right now. That gap hovering at about 6-7 tenths of a second. Cameron Dance just losing time lap after lap here, on average about 2 or 3 tenths of a second per lap. It looks like Hoffman has just got the speed and tucked into that car and absolutely pushing, as Cameron Dance actually goes a little bit wide there through the penultimate corner, and that's certainly going to sacrifice a little bit of speed for him.
Yeah, that Vortex car looks very, very strong in the hands of Jan Hoffman there. He's probably, I would say, actually the only driver who's really been able to consistently match lap times with Josh Chin for most of this stint. He really hasn't lost too much time, maybe a second and a half over the course of 15 or 20 laps here, but he's been putting in some mega lap times here, and he's actually got the second fastest lap of the race so far. So definitely, I think, one of the stronger drivers, and I think Cameron Dance, after having a little bit of a reprieve from Ethan Egan, he's looking at having Jan Hoffman pressuring him here, and I'm not sure that he's very comfortable. And Hoffman looks like he's looking to make a move sooner rather than later here.
Yeah, a little bit of a defensive line there for Cameron Dance, going down into the corkscrew, just trying to block off any attack from Jan Hoffman. They plunge their way down the hill now through Rainy Curve as they go, working down through that penultimate corner. It looks like Hoffman lost just a hair of time there. The gap at about 5-6 tenths of a second, 5 tenths of a second, as they round the final corner and work their way across this curving pit straightaway here. Hoffman trying to find what he can get. Not going to send a dive down there to the inside, but definitely looking to keep that pressure up here in that number 05 machine.
And that's all you can do if you're Jan Hoffman at this point, is you just need to keep pressuring him and keep pressuring him, and the more pressure you put on, the longer this goes on, the more it plays into Jan Hoffman's hands, because Cameron Dance, we've seen, he just doesn't quite have that comfort level that some of the other drivers seem to have at this circuit, and he's been making just small mistakes here and there, and sooner or later one of those mistakes is going to allow that 05 car a real shot at outbreaking him in one of these corners.
Yeah, I think it will, as they plunge their way down through the corkscrew, and we tick down to 38 laps to go in this race. Waiting to see here when Hoffman is going to choose to try to make a little bit of a move. Now, they are coming up behind Visa here in the number 96 machine, so a little bit of lap traffic. How much can you use that to maybe use as a pick here to try to get their way around?
It all depends on how charitable that lap traffic is, and where exactly they sort of arrest their momentum, because it looks like it might be through turn 5 here that they'll really get on the back of Ilha Olila, and in that case, it's a small mistake there from Dance, but Ilha Olila, he gets offline here. That's going to release both of them, and I don't think Hoffman's going to be able to capitalize on it, but at the same time, yeah, like it's all down to whether or not they catch him in a spot that allows him to make the thing. But here comes Hoffman into the corkscrew here, DJ.
Trying to see if he could get that run down into the famous corner, but not able to get it done. We've seen him struggle a little bit coming down through Rainy Curve and losing some time, but he's able to keep nice and close behind here as they continue to go down. Oh, big clobber of that inside sausage curve. That sent the car flying a little bit for Hoffman, but doesn't end up losing that much time, but that was a very hairy moment.
And it's moments like that that just puts your heart in your throat as a driver, that you know that you just got away with another small mistake. Hoffman looking to the inside here. Cameron Dance leaving the inside lane open just a little bit, but Hoffman just a little too far back into turn one.
Not able to get it done, but this is that pressure cooker battle that we talk about when you come to Laguna Seca. This is what it's all about. A difficult track to pass on. You just have to keep that pressure going. Both drivers running a little bit wide there, kicking up a little bit of dust as they now work their way through the left-hander that starts the ascent up the hill. A little bit of a wider run there for Hoffman, and he's got the gap down to under 2/10. Expands a little bit as they continue to go up the hill. Are we going to see an attack going down into the corkscrew? He's certainly close enough. No, he's going to back off a little bit again. I'm getting the sense here that Jan Hoffman oh, that was a squirrely moment, catching that curb wrong coming down out of the corkscrew.
Yeah, I was about to say that Jan Hoffman, he's one of the more patient drivers in the Classic IndyCar Series, so he has no problem just setting up and waiting for that perfect moment for that to happen. But the danger, of course, is that while you're piling on the pressure on Cameron Dance in front of you, you can also make small mistakes like Jan Hoffman did, and it's just a good visualization of just how close both of these drivers are to the edge of control. Just seeing that small mistake and a small upset can really have like a 3 or 4 car length difference when it all comes down to it.
Yeah, very much so. And the good news here for these two drivers is that even despite this battle that we see raging on, Ethan Hagen not really able to close down. That gap has maintained a little bit. Lost a little bit of time to him on the last run around to the tune of about 0.6 of a second or so, but not enough to really start worrying about it quite yet. That gap's still about 2.7 seconds. Looks here like Hoffman still a little bit of ways there from Cameron Dance. Not going to be able to send that move. Better run down through the corkscrew. That's what he wants to see. Now, this is the area of the track that it looks a little bit like Dance is able to pull away just slightly. The penultimate corner seeming to be a little bit of a bane there for Jan Hoffman. That seems like where he's losing the most time.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem like he's been getting that good run that he needs, but that being said, he is looking for maybe an outside move here into turn one. This is very brave from Jan Hoffman. Dance really strong on the brakes, and he's just able to keep it nice and tidy through that inside lane there. But I think Hoffman, he's starting to get a little bit antsy, and he's really looking for maybe some alternate lines here to try and find a way by this number 88 cut.
Yeah, Dance just positioning that car exactly where he needs to prevent Hoffman from being able to get anything done, to be able to clear on by him as they work their way up the hill again. It looks like Hoffman losing a little bit of time. They're now about to come onto the back of Sebastian Kinder, I believe, in about 2 seconds' time. So again, maybe that pick being able to play out here, that could be what Hoffman is hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it changes lap to lap if you're Hoffman, just what you're looking for. You're trying to assess and see what happens, see what the traffic is doing in front of you, anticipate that, and try to position yourself as best as possible. But it's a very cerebral game if you're both Cameron Dance and Jan Hoffman right now. You've got sort of half your mind concentrating on driving, but the other half is fully concentrated on trying to find a way. As a big move here from... Oh, no!
And that's contact there between the two drivers that we were following. Heavy damage to Cameron Dance as he is forced off of the track. Hoffman locking up the brakes a little bit and sending Dance off into the kitty litter. My goodness, let's go back and check out this replay. Yeah, that was just a heavy late braking move, and it looked like the brakes just locked up there, and Hoffman lost control of the car.
Yeah, he just got in there just a little too deep there, DJ, and there's nothing Cameron Dance could do there. He had to eventually turn into the corner, but you can see Jan Hoffman got a mega run here, and he's trying to go as late as possible, but he just gets in there and he just realizes he's never making that corner with how late he got in there, locks up the brakes, and then unfortunately, that's hurt Cameron Dance a lot more than Jan Hoffman here.
Yeah, it certainly has. We ride on board with Cameron Dance to take a look at it here. You're going to see Hoffman pop out to the inside there. Yeah, Dance just turns in expecting Hoffman to be turning, and obviously no movement for that car. But as we jump back to live pictures, Hoffman right now under a lot of pressure from Ethan Hagen as they go down in, and that's going to be a little bit of a look and not playing out. Barely able to hold on to that. A big bunch of brake smoke there for the number 20.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised, AJ, if there was a little bit of damage for both the 88 and the 05 out of that, because that was a big impact. And you can see that Ethan Hagen down into turn 6 here. That's not normally a spot where you would expect a pass to be made, but I think the straight line speed there from Hoffman, it's just not there anymore. He's probably got a little bit of damage from that contact.
Yeah, I think he visual damage on the car, but sometimes that is not always the clearest indicator of what it is and how it goes. So we'll have to see. But he has already fallen down. Cameron Dance falling down to 5th place as they run.
I've seen some left side pod and maybe a little bit of suspension damage as well. So definitely not ideal there. And in fact, Jan Hoffman actually just allowing the number 88 car by. So Hoffman has ceded the position back to Cameron Dance in a nice display of sportsmanship there.
Yeah, ceding that position back, and as you said, some pretty heavy damage to the side of Jan Hoffman as they go working here on lap 57 as we continue to work our way around. Joshua Chin continues to lead this race, but I have to say Henry Bennett has actually been able to find a little bit of pace over the last couple of laps here. He's been able to close in ever so slightly on your leader in the 93, holding that gap, but of course, as soon as I say that, Joshua Chin probably listening into our broadcast, and of course, as soon as I say that, Joshua Chin probably listening into our broadcast and setting the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he definitely probably saw the times coming down as Jan Hoffman actually down on pit road here, so he's, I think, got a little bit more damage than even we thought. And he's coming in a little bit early here to get some repairs. I don't think he'll be able to make it to the end from here, although we are close to the range, actually, now that I look at it. Yeah, so I would say that right now, Henry Bennett, he was probably doing a little bit of fuel saving, just judging from the lap times that he had going on there. But now it's all about trying to go as fast as he can. So he's turned up the wick a bit, and Josh Chin has had to respond. And I do believe that he has very well put in an exclamation mark saying, "No, I am the fastest driver on this track right now."
Yeah, he definitely has as they go around. By the way, the cycle that we saw on that first stint was about 31 to 33 laps. That's how long drivers were able to take this out. We are currently working on about lap 25, 26 of this stint. So we anticipate drivers probably coming down a little bit earlier. Joshua Chin, your leader, just working his way by some lap traffic in the form of Robert Barnacow as they go around here. He's got a little bit of clean sailing up in front of him. The next lap car that he will get by is Marshall Stanley, 8th place. So that is just how far Joshua Chin has been able to get back up as we resume you there with live pictures. Sorry for that technical difficulty there. But yeah, Chin certainly setting back on those fast times, just kind of putting his stamp of authority on this field, making sure that Henry Bennett knows that Chin wants to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at this point, it's only a mistake from Josh Chin that's really going to cost him this race right now. He's able to respond, and he's able to sort of modulate his speed just a little bit. And when you're that comfortable as the leader of the race, as Josh Chin seems to be right now, that's really the only thing standing between yourself and victory is one of your own mistakes. So really good stuff from Josh Chin. As we see once again, he loves locking up those brakes, and I think again it's just because some suspension choices that he made that's picking up that inside front suspension through turn 1 and 2.
Yeah, and he did lose just a fraction of a second there, about 63 thousandths of a second on that last lap to Bennett. So Bennett certainly trying to keep up the pace here as much as possible as they run. But Chin, I would say looking untouchable here today, but those mistakes, they start to worry in your mind a little bit here, Andrew. And as a driver, how hard is it to put those mistakes out of your mind, knowing that you've made a mistake or two over the course of the race? Does it amplify the tension a little bit, or are you able to just not think about it?
I think it definitely depends on the driver, to be quite honest, DJ. Some drivers are really, really good at overcoming mistakes. Some drivers, what they're good at putting mistakes out of their mind over the long run, but they're bad at the short term. And from my experience with Josh, I would say that what tends to happen with him is if he makes a mistake and then he makes another mistake, that second mistake is where the doubt starts to creep in for Josh. But if he makes a small mistake here or there, he's more than capable of putting that behind him.
Well, it certainly looks like he is putting those mistakes behind him right now as he sets another blistering lap there of a 1:08 flat, able to pull 0.5 of a second over his opponent there in the form of Henry Bennett. This is Cameron Dance in fourth place. Remember, Dance having that incident earlier. Looks like he has been able to pretty much escape from that, running some pretty decent lap times here comparatively in the low 109s. Now, that's not setting the world on fire necessarily, but that is perfectly enough to keep him in this fourth place position, although I'm wondering if it's going to be a little bit too much to ask for Dance to be able to get a podium out of today.
Yeah, and it's a good recovery, I think, from that contact with Jan Hoffman, and it's really he's put himself in the best position possible given the adverse circumstances that he faced earlier, but at the same time, you definitely think if you're Cameron Dance, you probably need another 2 or 3 tenths a lap in order to reel back in Ethan Hagen in front of him. That being said, he's only under 5 seconds up the road is Ethan Hagen, so he can see him on some of these straightaways. So having that target in front, that'll be very, very important for Cameron Dance, because it'll just allow him to focus forward just that little bit more and start to maybe take some of the time back from the touring car of Ethan Hagen.
Well, and is there a potential here that he can maybe get if he's got a little bit of problems to the front wing? For example, we talked about that extra 5 seconds in the pit box. There looks like there may be a little bit of damage on the left-hand side of that front wing. Do you think it's worth it to try to get that repaired if you have the outright pace, or do you try to run the rest of this race with that damaged wing and just hope that your own raw talent is able to bring you home?
So in this car, there is no choice in terms of repairs to front wings. It is a mandatory repair, so he will have a change in the next pit stop. And to be honest, I think that it's going to be to his benefit, as we should see our leader, Josh Chin. He's the first one of our leading group to make that choice to come down pit road here, DJ.
Yes, he is. There he comes to rest in his box, getting the last bit of fuel put onto that car, coming off of the air jacks and waiting for the last bit of fuel to be put in. He is out and on his way now as he will continue on. It looks like he is going to return back to the track in about fourth place. That will give control of the race over to Henry Bennett now. Bennett, we anticipate coming in probably within the next 2 laps or so. Remember, Chin short-fueled on that first pit cycle. He came in a little bit early as compared to the rest of the leaders, so we anticipate Bennett probably able to go a little bit longer. And you've got to say, if you're Henry Bennett, this is the time to put the pedal down to try to close in at all on Chin.
Yeah, absolutely. These next few laps are going to be so important, especially as Chin needs to get his tires back up to operating temperature. Bennett's going to have to put in some monster laps here, and then not only that, but when he gets back out, he's going to have to use his slight fuel advantage that he will have over Josh Chin and use the weight advantage that creates in order to just put in as many fast laps as he can over the course of this final run. It's really going to be a qualifying stint for the 007 if he stands any hope of getting there, but to be honest, I think that right now, at least, it's Josh Chin's race to lose here. But the real question for me is who's going to be that last step on the podium? Is it going to be Ethan Hagen? Is it going to be Cameron Dance?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Dance has been able to keep that gap relatively solid. He's losing about 0.3 of a second per lap to Ethan Hagen as they go. And now it looks like Cameron Dance having a little bit of lap traffic to deal with. That's going to be Marshall Stanley and Franz Joseph Stum. Stum has come in and out of pit lane. There you're going to see him pulling off to the side. Big dive down to the inside there for Cameron Dance. And oh, that is Stum off into the kitty litter, being a nice guy, proving out to be a little bit of a a bite there for Franz Joseph.
Yeah, and that's just what happens when you get people on multiple different laps trying to sort themselves out all into one corner. Stu was trying to let his teammate Marshall Stanley by at the same time that Cameron Dance needed to get by as well, so it was just a little bit of miscommunication, but just a quick trip through the kitty litter for Franz Josef Stum, and no harm, no foul on that one.
Yeah, no harm, no foul. Indeed, Jamie Wilson, the latest to come down pit lane right now as drivers continue to work their way around, cycling around. Only 23 laps to go here at WeatherTech Raceway at Laguna Seca. We continue to watch Cameron Dance as he tries to go in, trying to close in on Ethan Agan the best of his ability. That gap expanding as a result of that lap traffic, about 0.6 of a second grown there. And this is your leader right now, Henry Bennett, as he charges his way up the hill and onto the corkscrew. He is currently working on lap 31 of his stint. I would anticipate he could probably take this an extra lap here, maybe 2 if he's been good on fuel. And just as you said earlier, Andrew, if you're able to minimize that time you've got to spend in the pit, minimize the amount of fuel you put in the car, that is going to be seconds you gain out on the racetrack.
It will definitely be seconds. I just don't know if it will be enough seconds for Henry Bennett, because he was just that, for me, a little bit too far behind Josh Chin coming into this whole cycle here. But here's your second place driver, Ethan Agan, down on the pit lane, and this is going to be very important in his battle with Cameron Dance, because I do think that Cameron Dance will be quicker after this pit cycle and after he gets that front wing repaired. The question will be, will Ethan Agan be able to defend over the course of this pit cycle from Cameron Dance?
That's going to be the question that we need answering there, and it doesn't look like Agan is taking any tires there. Indeed, fuel only stop for the number 20. As you mentioned earlier, tire wear not exactly the biggest in these the road side of these IRO 5, so not necessarily needing it there. But this is Cam Dance as we watch him now coming around, probably going to be coming in on this next pit stop. It'll be interesting to see from him what that time will be, as here comes Henry Bennett down pit lane just as predicted.
It's all down to this for Henry Bennett. This will answer the question of whether or not he has a shot at Josh Chin, but Josh Chin, he's just looked so impressive all race long. I find it very difficult to believe that Henry Bennett is going to come out within shouting distance, but you never know what can happen here. So absolutely maximizing this pit stop is going to be important for Henry Bennett, because it's, again, so easy for mistakes to happen, and if Henry Bennett's anywhere near Josh, he can maximize his shot at doing it. 8.9 seconds in the box there, DJ. That was a pretty quick pit stop, but I don't think it's put him anywhere close to Josh Chin.
No, indeed, is there. Chin coming out of the Andretti hairpin right now, and you're not even going to see Henry Bennett flash across the screen. That gap is going to equalize itself out to about 7.5 seconds, I think, as Bennett gets up to speed. So he was able to cut out just a little bit of time there as they ran, but not nearly enough to be able to close that gap down. You predicted that absolutely perfectly there, Andrew. And now we focus in on the new leader of the race, Cameron Dance, running along here with that damaged front wing. As we said, the real battle is going to be between him and Ethan Agan to see who is going to be able to come out on top, and if Dance is going to be able to regain that pace once he gets that car up to tip-top shape.
And I think it's one of the cases we see Dance down on the pit road this time. I think this is a case of Dance just didn't quite realize just what was damaged on his car, and because it surprised me, to be honest, DJ, that he stayed out as long as he did with that damaged wing. If it were me, I would have tried to come down and try to get it fixed as quick as possible, but with the seating position on this car, it's very difficult to see your front wing. You don't have the sort of elements sticking up like you do on the DW12 or the IR18, so depending on your field of view and your actual hardware, you might not, if you're Cameron Dance, have been able to see that you had that front wing damage, so you might not have known that you could potentially have regained some of your pace there. But right now it looks like he's in with the shout at Ethan Agan at least.
Yeah, he's going to come out of pit lane there. It looks to be about 1.7 seconds behind Ethan Hagan, so the battle very much on right now for that final podium position between Cameron Dance and Ethan Hagan. And let's not, well, maybe we should there, as that was Jan Hoffman there. We thought for a second he was going to be a little bit closer, but he's about 15 seconds behind, so he has got a whole lot of room to make up. But as they get fully up to speed here, only about 2.5 seconds between Hagan and Dance. That is certainly closable with 20 laps to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think this is going to be the battle, is for that final podium position. And we know that Cameron Dance is a very, very strong driver. And when you give him a target like he has right in front of him with Ethan Hagan, and particularly when you give him a car that suddenly will feel slightly better, that's going to motivate him. That's going to give him the impetus that he needs to really start cranking out those laps, because I think for the first time in about 10 or 15 laps here, he'll actually feel like he still has a shot at this podium position.
Yes, he does. And as they come across the line there for the first time in anger, I can tell you that he was able to close up just a little bit there. Dance able to bring that gap down to about 1.5 seconds, 1.6 seconds as they work their way through turns 3 and 4 right now. I definitely think Dance has the pace here to be able to close in and try to do this. They start to climb up the hill right now. The 88 having that number 20 machine clearly in his sights. He wants this podium.
Absolutely. He'll definitely feel like the podium was taken away from him earlier, so this is his shot. He's got 19 laps to go in order to do it, and if there's anyone in this field who is able to pull off a brave move, Cameron Dance has to be one of the names highest on those lists. We've seen him in a number of different series across the iRacing network, and he is very, very brave on those brakes. So he is definitely my betting favorite, at least in this battle between himself and Ethan Hagan.
Well, and he's putting a little bit better odds for himself as he sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:07.958 there on that last lap. Hagan feeling the pressure a little bit, locking up, going down into the Andretti hairpin. That gap now down under a second, holding it about 0.8 of a second as they sweep their way towards the rise up the hill. Dance bringing absolutely everything on here. The first couple of sectors, he's already been able to gain 0.2 over the course of this lap.
Yeah, and when you see your gap decreasing in front of you like that, like Cameron Dance is experiencing right now, where corner by corner you're seeing the gap decrease, that's just so much motivation. Cameron Dance, he's going to be really high on adrenaline in that cockpit, and I think he's going to be looking to make a bold move here, potentially even as soon as turn 1 here, the way that he is getting up on the back of the 20 car here.
Yeah, he is already all up the back of him, 0.4 of a second as they exit the final corner here. Cameron Dance lining up in that slipstream, waiting to see what he's got over Ethan Hagan. Hagan's going to go defensive, putting him down to the outside. Cameron Dance is going to have to be later on the binders and carry momentum the long way around. Is it going to work? A little bit of a lockup there for Hagan. They're going to be side by side exiting the Andretti hairpin. That's going to be a favored line to Cameron Dance, and Dance is up and on through and onto the podium.
What a power move there from Cameron Dance. He wasted absolutely no time. As soon as he got to Ethan Hagan, he was already by Ethan Hagan. And that move around the outside, it's so difficult to be able to hold your momentum on that outside line, but Cameron Dance, really, really strong stuff there. Great move.
Very, very good move from him. Now, he has about 13 seconds to try to get up the road to Henry Bennett. I think that's going to be a little bit too far to be able to go, but already has built a 7/8 of a second advantage over Cameron Dance or over Ethan Hagan, rather, as they have worked them out here. So Dance clearly having the pace to be able to pull himself away. A really, really great move, and that looks like it's pretty much solidified our podium positions here with about 16 laps to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Barring the mistake from one of our top 3, this is probably how we're going to end this race. But if I'm Ethan Hagan, I would still be very satisfied with my drive here today. He's been one of the drivers that's just sort of kept himself out of the wars for the most part, and just done a nice solid day's drive. And it's going to be very important to maximize those types of solid days in this championship, because we've already seen that we've had so much chaos through these first 3.5, now almost 4 rounds of this championship that just being able to deliver solid performances is going to stand you in very good stead come the end of this season here.
Exactly, and that is the mind of a champion there, to be able to think about those long-term runs, not trying to push the car too hard and extract a little bit too much out of it as they go. Continue to watch Cameron dance there. That is Franz Josef Stum right up ahead of him as he is going to be able to get himself around. Nice little battle starting to develop itself out here for 5th place. This is Jan Hoffman and Jack Stiles. Jack starting to close in a little bit as they go. He's just been taking tenths out over the last couple of laps, and it looks like Jack has got the outright pace to maybe take a top 5.
Yeah, and of course Jack Stiles, teammate to Cameron Dance as well. So we're seeing both of those cars sort of come alive here in this last stint of the race. I do think that Jan Hoffman probably still does have some residual damage from that contact that he had with Cameron Dance, and that's allowing Stiles maybe to get a little bit closer than he otherwise would have. But at the same time, Stiles, another driver who's just done a nice solid drive, and he's put himself in the position to fight for this top 5 here with 15 to go.
Yeah, and he's trying to gain back on that 5th place position that he's qualified in, so just trying to get back on an even keel. And if these two do manage to swoop around, we'll actually put them back to exactly where they started. But Stiles here continues to close in a little bit, able to gain about 0.2 of a second there through Sector 2 as they now plunge their way down the corkscrew. The gap holding at about 0.6 of a second, trying to see what it is. I don't believe here, well, the Cameron Dance setting the fastest lap of the race yet again, continuing to dip down into those 107s. He is absolutely blistering out there.
Yeah, Dance is pushing as hard as he possibly can, knowing that his only shot is to do qualifying laps here. But Henry Bennett, he's in the 108.8.4s right now, so it's about half a second a lap with the 13 second interval. That's just not enough time for Cameron Dance right now, but he's sort of, I think, serving notice that, hey, I had a fast car today here too, and it just wasn't meant to be with the way that things played out.
Yeah, just getting unlucky and getting an unlucky luck of the draw. We talked to Robert Grosser earlier, who's had 2 of those incidents take place for him on the first lap of the race, which put out a substantial chunk of our field. We've had quite a few retirements here today. Hauser, Turner, Altena, Hibbs, Wagner, Shoemake, Wood, Grosser, all out of the race as they run. But 2 drivers who are not out of the race to continue this battle, Jan Hoffman and Jack Stiles. Stiles able to close in a little bit more on that last lap, about 2.5 of a second. He was able to grow in. Looks like his Sector 2 times are the times that are the best. Very, very close there as they run out of that final corner. They'll cross over there with 13 laps to go.
Yeah, 13 to go, and this is what it comes down to for Jack Stiles. Is can he find a way to use his slight pace advantage to close up to Jan Hoffman in the right spots? Because right now it does seem like he's just not getting the momentum on Hoffman in the right positions on the track. He's closed up really well through these sorts of corners here on the back part of the track, but there's really no passing opportunity there. So he's got to find a way to really close up into turn 1 or into one of these braking zones that really allows him to make that move happen.
Yeah, he's just kind of trying to find those areas, getting very close there, coming down through the corkscrew right now. Looking like he's got some good closing speed. You can sometimes see an aggressive move going down into that final corner, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that right here, right now. He just needs to try to focus on it. A little bit of a lock up there from Jan Hoffman. That could be all the invitation that Jack Stiles needs. He is certainly tucked up behind in the draft. He's going to poke his nose to the inside, going down into turn 1, into the Andretti hairpin. That is going to be Stiles onto the preferred line. Can he keep it nice and tight through the corner? Yes, he can, and that is a top 5 for Jack Stiles.
Really nice move there from Styles, and Hoffman was not making it easy for him. He tried to hang tough on that outside line, but it just wasn't quite enough. Styles did a really good job rolling through the center of that corner and completing the pass on exit. Really nice move there from Styles, and I expect him to start to gap Jan Hoffman here, because Styles does seem to just have probably about 3 or 4 tenths more pace at this point in the run than Hoffman does.
Yeah, really able to pull himself away here is what we certainly expect. Already that gap at about 0.5 of a second as they run along. Want to also draw your attention back to our featured driver of the day. We've mentioned him a couple of times, Robert Barnicow, running right now in 14th place. There you can see him on your screen, just putting in the time here and you know, able to really gain this 14th place by just keeping his nose out of trouble, and that's exactly on a day of high attrition the kind of results you need to have a good points day.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those races where I'm sure Barnicow is just out there. He's learning the track, but he's also learning these cars and learning this series as well. This is one of the, I believe, rookies in this field, if I'm not mistaken. So he is just sort of putting in the laps, getting his experience up, but it's been a really nice showing. He did have that one moment through the corkscrew, but other than that, he's kept his nose really clean throughout the race and has done a good job.
Yeah, he certainly has, as we are ready to go with 10 laps to go here in this race. There is your leader, Joshua Chin, holding on to about a 10-second advantage right there. The Team Chimera driver doing an absolutely incredible job charging his way back up through the field after a couple of early errors. Andrew Aitken there getting out of the way for your leader as they run. Chin just maintaining that gap here as they go. He'll be coming to the line with 9 laps to go, certainly stamping his claim of authority on the field, as we have seen him do multiple times here. Andrew, I've got to say, I am very impressed by Joshua Chin, and I've seen him do some pretty incredible things here before.
It all looks very under control for that number 93 Team Chimera car. He's just, he had, of course, we refer to it back again. He had that moment at the start that for a second it looked like that maybe his race wasn't going to go his way, but by the time the first pit cycle shook out, we knew that Josh Chin was definitely one of the strongest drivers in this field, and he is just stamped with authority over the last 2/3 of this race, just how strong he was here today, and he's just out there cruising right now.
Yeah, definitely cruising. I mean, his last lap was a 1:08.4, which is still faster than Henry Bennett behind him, and that is a very competitive time. I'd certainly put that within about the top 3 drivers out on the circuit as they run. So Chin running a good race, but as is often the case, you get relaxed, you get into that groove, you get into that zone a little bit, and you can sometimes find yourself putting in even faster times as you're just sort of all calmed down and things come together in your rhythm.
Absolutely. A lot of people who don't race at the top levels, they sort of think that in order to go fast, you have to push as hard as you possibly can lap after lap. But really, what makes time in most cases, especially in long races like this, is finding a rhythm and hitting your apexes, hitting your marks, and just doing it lap after lap after lap. And when you do that, you can find 100 here, 100 there, and you put that all together, and by the time you're at the end of the race, you've suddenly found yourself lapping a couple tenths quicker than you were at the beginning of the race. And that's why so many drivers say that practice is so important, is because you can do that in practice as well. But the top drivers just understand that being relaxed, hitting your marks, that's the key to speed.
Yeah, the key to speed here, and that is the key that Joshua Chin has unlocked. There is your second place driver for Powerslide Motorsports, Henry Bennett, as he brings his car up the hill. He's about 11 seconds back from your leader, Joshua Chin, and about 11 seconds up the road from Cameron Dance. Again, Dance having a little bit of a coulda, woulda, shoulda day, as it were, getting involved in this incident. I've got to think here that with the speed we've seen out of Cameron in the closing stages of this race, that if he had not been involved in some of that contact earlier, if he just caught a little bit of a better break, that he may be challenging Bennett up here for P2.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Cameron Dance was trying to play that fuel game sort of similar to Henry Bennett, where he was maybe holding back through the first couple of segments and looking to come alive in this third segment, as he has done. Unfortunately, as you mentioned, that contact with Jan Hoffman, it's robbed him of the opportunity to maybe fight with Henry Bennett here. But at the same time, he did a really nice recovery there and had a really good, if not short, battle with Ethan Egan there for that final podium spot.
Yeah, very good battle with Egan. We loved seeing that develop. And Dance, by the way, we speculated that Dance was going to be able to pull a little bit away from Ethan Egan. He's done that. It's about 7.5 seconds right now. The top three really separating themselves out here and doing a fantastic job of bringing their way around. And just to show you the pace that these guys have had, Joshua Chin able to lap all the way up to P6, Jan Hoffman. Now, I don't think he's going to be able to catch him by the end of the race as he crosses over the start-finish line there. Right now does Joshua Chin. 6 laps to go, so I think that is going to be where he ends up in terms of lapping the field. But again, Cameron Dance here doing a good job. Been in the trenches here today, but certainly able to pull himself out and really do a good job to secure a podium here if he's able to keep a clean race.
And it is important, we talk about Cameron Dance being very experienced on iRacing, but he is a rookie here in the Classic IndyCar Series. So it's important as a rookie to have moments like this in your first season where you face adversity, but you, more importantly, overcome that adversity. Because each car that you race on the surface, it is slightly different, and being able to develop confidence within this car class for Cameron Dance, that'll be very important for him moving forward in this championship.
And there you can see that list of rookies out there. Our featured driver today, Robert Barnicow, one of the drivers that is out on track. Jack Stiles, another one of the rookies, very much putting in a fantastic drive. Cameron Dance and Sebastian Kinder, all of those drivers. We were talking a little bit earlier, Andrew, about the rookies in the broadcast. Very impressed with all of them across the board, as they have really brought exactly what you want to see out of a rookie class. A lot of talent and a lot of speed.
They really have been taking it to the veterans here today. Obviously 2 rookies in this top 5 with Dance and Stiles, the teammates as well. But again, you look at Sebastian Kinder, he's done a really strong race down in 9th place right now. Just again, sort of more of that veteran style of a race where he's just kept it clean and taken advantage of some of the attrition throughout the race, and he's put himself in a really good position there.
Yeah, he certainly has. With only 5 laps to go, you've got to say that really proving himself to do a fantastic job. Cameron Dance continues to hold the fastest lap of the race with a 1:07.95. He is the only driver, by the way, to crack into the 1:07s, and that was really part of that run to close down on Ethan Egan, really pushing that car as hard as he could. But as we close down here with 4 laps to go, Joshua Chin making his way out of the Andretti hairpin right now. Again, we've talked about his race here today. We've talked about the pace. We've talked about just how dominant he has been. And especially seeing those incidents that he had earlier on, those rare mental lapses from Joshua Chin, it really makes this commanding lead of the race all that much more impressive.
Yeah, because it takes a certain amount of mental resilience to really gather yourself back up from incidents like we saw on that opening lap from Chin, and to really refocus yourself and to stay in that focus for the rest of this race. Because again, like even just staying focused for 87 laps around Laguna Seca, that's a tall order. That's like it takes the best of the best in the real world in IndyCar in order to be able to do a full-length race. And there are very few people on iRacing that can maintain pace over the course of an 87-lap event like this, and Josh Chin is definitely one of them. So it's been very impressive to watch.
Well, and that's one of the things that I do truly love about the Classic IndyCar Series presented by Buttkicker, is the fact that we run the full race distances here, trying to emulate these real-world races, and it really is a completely different degree of concentration that is involved. I mean, you talk about running what we'd traditionally see as an iRacing event, maybe a 45 minutes to an hour-long event, maybe half normal race distances. But when you get into these full-length events, it can really wear you out, both mentally and physically, with the force feedback wheels that these drivers are dealing with.
Absolutely, and it's important to also realize that these cars are not easy to drive by any stretch of the imagination. We saw early on in this race just how much wheel spin that these cars produce, and these are probably some of the oldest car models on the entire iRacing service. So some of the smooth, rough edges that have been smoothed out on other cars, they haven't necessarily been smoothed out on this car. So it takes a really, really talented driver to maximize this track and this car combination.
Yes, it is very, very impressive. And once again, as we close in on those final stages, just want to remind you about the Patreon for the Classic IndyCar Series presented by the Buttkicker. It's a way to create some funding for the league. You can head over there and please make sure to check out that Patreon. Just search for Classic IndyCar Series, and there you can see it. That is certainly something to be able to do if you like the series. Donate to the Patreon. Continue to let this series keep going, because Andrew, I don't know about you, but I want to keep calling this series because it is some of the great action that is on the iRacing service. There you can see the donors and the gold and the platinum donors. Head on over to the Patreon. See that the tier listing there that you can donate to. Absolutely incredible stuff. But out on track, one lap to go here for Josh Chin. He's only got to navigate this circuit one more time before he sees the checkered flag.
And what a race it's been for Josh Chin. As we said, he faced the adversity early, but he overcame it, and he's just set himself up. He's got nice, clean track in front of him, clean track behind him. This is exactly the type of final lap, if you're Josh Chin, that you want. Just no pressure. All you have to do, go one more time around the track, and he's almost halfway done, DJ.
Yes, he is. As they run here, he's climbing the hill now for the final time, bringing that car around the corner that caused him some pretty serious problems earlier in the race. Now ready to plunge down the corkscrew for the final time. Joshua Chin here. Only 3 more corners to go for the Team Chimera driver number 93 as he brings it through Rainy Curve and down into the penultimate corner. Joshua Chin in that familiar white and purple livery into the final corner. Here he comes, setting his eye on the flag stand as Barney the flagman starts to wave the checkered flag. Joshua Chin starts to weave and takes victory here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
What a drive from Josh Chin. He stamped his authority on that race, and Henry Bennett, a strong second from the Brit. He definitely looked like he had probably the strongest car in the early going, but he just wasn't able to match Josh Chin's pace. And then Cameron Dance, what a recovery from that contact with Jan Hoffman. He will take pride, I'm sure, in that podium finish there in that number 88 car.
I'm certainly sure he will as well. Behind them, it's Ethan Agan coming across the line there in P4. Jack Stiles will be the last driver on, or the penultimate driver on the lead lap to go, as it will be Jan Hoffman, the last driver on the lead lap. There is Hoffman right now working his way through the final corner as he will bring that car on to the main straightaway and take a well-deserved 6th place there, and that will round out your finishers here for the day. So let's run you through that unofficial finishing order here for the Edifice Grand Prix of Monterey. It was Joshua Chin able to take victory, as we said, by the tune of about 12 seconds. Henry Bennett and Cameron Dance behind them, rounding out your podium finishers. Ethan Agan was in 4th, followed by Jack Stiles with Jan Hoffman and Marshall Stanley behind them. Jamie Wilson was 8th with Sebastian Kinder and Logan Simmons rounding out your top 10. It was Franz Joseph Stum in 11th with Andrew Aitken. These are drivers that were all multiple laps down, with Visa Waila Olila in 13th. Robert Barnacow, the last driver to finish. Hauser, Turner, Altena, Hibbs, Wagner, and Shoemake, all unable to unfortunately see the checkered flag, as there was a fair bit of attrition out in this race, Andrew, but we were here, able to get through it to the end, and Joshua Chin able to not only claim victory here, but that will pull him ahead and into the lead of the championship as things run.
Yeah, we haven't talked too much about the championship implications, but we know that Henry Bennett and Josh Chin won 2 in the championship and 1-2 in the race as well, but it was Josh Chin coming out on top here today, and that's going to be very important as this season wears on. I have a feeling that those two drivers, we haven't seen the last of them fighting with each other throughout the course of 2022 here. So Josh Chin with coming out on top today, but it's going to be very important that he keeps up this momentum on the ovals as well as on these road courses.
Well, and as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, the Classic IndyCar Series presented by Buttkicker does make that little bit of change going forward as we head to Iowa next. That is going to be a certain change in scenery, as well as Nashville and Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway as they go. And, you know, let's just talk briefly about the challenge of Iowa. Obviously, Andrew, you know that track pretty well. It's going to be pretty difficult to be able to get these cars around there. I have to imagine it's going to be a handful.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, a fast and banking there. These cars will have a fairly high amount of wing there, and the speeds are just going to be fantastic. And at the same time, it's going to, I think, wear out the tires a lot. So where you didn't see much fall off over the course of the race today, tires are going to come back into the focus at Iowa Speedway as well.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that plays out. And of course, with the oval racing strategy, even more important as it runs to be able to time everything else out right. As drivers currently spraying the champagne here, Joshua Chin burning down the house a little bit. Once again, your podium, Chin, Bennett, and Dance. Good races overall. And, you know, I think the big takeaways here is those top three look to be the top three to beat this season. Obviously, Cameron Dance is a rookie, which sounds a little bit strange to say, to be honest, but some absolute amazing speed out of that 88, and I don't think it's the last time we're going to be seeing those three on the podium over the course of this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And a couple drivers that I do think are definitely up and coming or that weren't here today. One of them being Lucas Laville, your defending series champion, was absent here today, but he's always been very strong on the road courses. But I was particularly impressed with Jan Hoffman before that contact with Cameron Dance. He was showing some real pace in that Vortex car, and it definitely looks like the Vortex drivers are starting to figure out the road courses just a little bit better, getting the setups just that little bit improved. So look for them to come on in the second half as well.
We will, and we now are able to catch up with our victor here today, Joshua Chin. Josh, a pretty commanding drive in the second half of the race, a little bit scruffy early on, but you made it look easy once you got to the lead.
Balls to the walls after the first 5-10 laps. Just overall kind of a mess in a 15-minute span. Messed up qualifying, and then lap one was just kind of miscommunication between me and Gavin. I thought he was going to go down the corner harder than he did, and I was trying to let him go, and unfortunately just got loose, and then Wood and Grosser got caught up in the aftermath behind it. But after that, it was just pedal to the metal, trying to make up time. I figured I had good race pace, but after qualifying, I thought the race was kind of shot, and everyone had their issues early on after I had mine, and it worked out pretty well, and the pace was there the whole time after.
Well, with that pace, I mean, you were absolutely blistering it out there, and, you know, a little bit of a bobble here and there. I think you had just a couple of lockups there. Andrew was maybe anticipating a little bit of the setup on your dampers, just not exactly favoring. Were you having any problems with controlling the car at all, or was everything pretty much under control?
This car has to be one of the weirdest setups I think I've ever made in this car. Just nothing ever quite came together right. It seemed like the front end and rear end were just kind of disconnected every time, and it had speed, but the fuel wasn't really there. And even once we got into the race and the fuel burned off a little bit, it still was all over the place, and it was just difficult to try and really get a good solid run together. The last run was finally the first time where it kind of all clicked together, and I think it helped being on lower fuel to start that run. But overall, the car was just out of sync with itself, and it had speed, but it did not have the fuel to match it.
Well, you certainly were able to extract the speed out of it, and to be able to take the victory here has got to feel good. Josh, congratulations on a victory and for taking the championship lead after the end of today.
Yeah, thank you guys. I wasn't expecting that, especially once Henry had the lead there, but worked out great. Thank you guys for broadcasting. Thank you CIS for putting on the series, and we'll see you guys at Iowa soon.
We will indeed see you at Iowa. That was your winner here today, Josh Chin. And now I believe we have second place, Henry Bennett there. Henry, a little bit of an all-over-the-place race there for you, but able to come home second. That's got to feel pretty good on the day.
Yeah, pretty happy with that. Didn't quite have the pace or consistency to match Josh. Lacking a bit of focus in the race to really bang out the consistent laps. Yeah, I think the ultimate pace was pretty similar to Josh, but yeah, just not really race fit. Having not raced this car all that often in the previous few years, so yeah, something I've got to work on. But yeah, happy with the P2, and happy to improve upon my pace comparative to the other front runners compared to Interlagos about a month ago.
Well, and as we start to turn our eyes into the next part of this season, we head over to the ovals there. Is that something that you're feeling you're going to need a little bit more practice on to kind of master, right? Or are you feeling confident as is as we look ahead to Iowa and Gateway and Nashville?
I think race ability wise, I'm probably okay with the ovals. Just got to get the car to to a competitive level really for these ovals. Not run at some of these ovals for 4 years or more. Got to work on the car really more than my racecraft.
Well, we wish you all the luck when we see you next month at Iowa. But Henry, congratulations on the second here today, and we wish you luck going forward.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that was Henry Bennett, your second place finisher. And now we've also caught up with the hard-charging Cameron Dance, who was able to hold on to that third place position after getting into a little bit of argy-bargy earlier in the race. But Cameron setting some blistering times on that third stint.
Yeah, not entirely sure what ended up happening in that first two stints, why we lacked so much pace compared to Henry and that. But yeah, it might have been track.
Cameron, you still there? I think we lost you, buddy. Oh, Cameron? I seen you light up there, my friend. I think he's having a little bit of connection issues. There is Cameron Dance, so we may not be able to talk to our third place finisher here today, as looks like he's having some technical issues.
Do you got me now?
Oh, there I got you, Cameron. There I got you.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened in the first two stints, why we lacked so much pace, whether I was just being too conservative or whether the track temp was just a little bit too high for the setup we were running. But yeah, no, really good pace at that final stint. Obviously, it would have been nice to be up the front, and obviously that incident with Jan was a little bit unfortunate. But yeah, look, it is what it is. We'll still take a podium at the end of the day, and another fistful of points as well.
Yeah, a good fistful of points for you. And talk to me just very briefly about that incident with Jan. You know, it looked like you had a little bit of damage on the left front wing. Obviously, getting the repairs helped you out there. But how much were you noticing that it was really hurting your steering and the car's efficacy going through after that contact?
Yeah, I had a little bit of left front wing damage, and it wasn't too bad from just the way that the car felt. It still felt all right, and like I wasn't too far down on straight line, but yeah, it wasn't too ideal. And obviously I was trying to find out if there was any other damage on the car, whether there was suspension or side pod or anything else. But no, it was just a front wing, and luckily enough that it was covered in the pit stop when doing the refueling, so we didn't lose too much time at all out of that.
Well, obviously glad you did, and glad to see you up here on the podium. We will see you in a couple of weeks' time in Iowa, Cameron, and congratulations again on this third place.
Yeah, cheers guys, and we'll see what happens at Iowa.
We will indeed. That was Cameron Dance, your third place finisher. And Andrew, we've got another race here in the books. That championship battle starting to title up. Any final thoughts here on the day?
Yeah, what a dominating drive from Josh Chin. He overcame the adversity of the first 15 minutes, as he says, and just put a stamp of authority on this race. But I'm really looking forward to next round at Iowa on Sunday, June 26th. It is going to be a very entertaining race, I'm sure. These cars on short tracks always seems to deliver some really close wheel-to-wheel action. So definitely looking forward to that one coming up here.
Indeed, as am I, and we will see you for that race at Iowa on June 26th. There you can see the full schedule for the Classic IndyCar Series presented by the Buttkicker. Some great races coming up. Go ahead and mark those down on your calendars. But that's about going to wrap things up for us here today. On behalf of all of our partners for the Classic IndyCar Series presented by the Buttkicker, including Extreme Scoring and Edifice, we would like to thank you for joining us here today. My name is DJ Clark with Andrew Kinsella and Joshua Lee behind the scenes. We would like to wish you a fond farewell, and we will see you on June 26th for that race at Iowa.